Greetings! Welcome back to my garage. Today, I have a torch, and I'm gonna see what I can melt with it. So here's the deal. I kinda, looking ahead, want to get into casting things, like melting metal, casting them into sand molds anyway. I have this torch that I bought before I had planned on doing that, but I kind of want to see what it's capable of doing. It is a simple, small hand torch. You pull the trigger, it has a spark ignition, fire comes out. So when you let go, torch shuts off, pull the trigger, torch starts. It's kind of cool, you don't need a striker. I got it at Menards, it was pretty cheap, came with a carrying case and a few different nozzles. Anyway, I got the biggest nozzle, so hopefully we can get the most heat. As you can see, it is Mapp/Pro, not Mapp, M-A-P-P gas. MAPP, Mapp gas, has been out of production for nearly 10 years now. This is Mapp Pro, which doesn't work quite as well supposedly, but they charge just as much and sell it in a yellow bottle, hoping you won't notice. I think this one is mainly propylene based. Supposedly burns hotter than propane. Their marketing says it burns super hot, but I can't really trust them. So, zoomed in, because the camera has to stay away from the fire of doom, you can see my setup. I have this metal bowl dish, kind of rusty, that'll catch anything that drips. I have 3 small pieces of metal. This is mild steel. Be sure to never weld or use a torch on like galvanized, because it'll give you the shakes. There's a zinc coating and that really screws you up. So this is mild steel. It is completely uncoated. It's just steel. And I know it's just steel because it's from the same sheet this bowl is from. And this bowl is super rusty just because I touched it. If it were galvanized, it wouldn't care that I touched it. So there you go. I have an acidic personality. So I'm going to try to melt this. This melting temperature is like 2,800, 2,900 degrees Fahrenheit, pretty hot. They wouldn't tell me how hot this got. Just, it gets super hot. You'll be fine. Then I got copper. I think this melts 1,900, 1,800-ish Fahrenheit. A little under 2,000. Then I got aluminum. This melts super cold, like 1,200-ish, 1,300-ish. Clearly, I don't know the exact figures. We're going to start with steel, then copper, then aluminum. And the reason I got tiny pieces is because I want heat transfer to be able to fill the whole thing without dissipating. If I got like a big lump of steel, I could sit here with a torch all day. The heat would just go to the other side and dissipate in the atmosphere and never melt. I don't want that. The reason the copper pipe is so big is because this is the copper pipe that I had in my pocket. I don't have a smaller one here, so we're going to see. And I'm, of course, going to hold it with this. You know, I'm not going to hold it with my hands. That would be ridiculous. So first up, the steel. I'm going to heat it over this plate, so anything that melts will fall into the plate and not on my flammable wooden workbench. All right? Here we go. Getting pretty warm. Getting really warm. We're turning red. What was that? It turned red. That didn't help. Maybe I'll turn up the fuel a little. Okay, got a little oxidation. It's kind of flexible. You know, I can bend it. Part flaked off. But I think that's pretty conclusively not melted. If I pull it up closer to the camera here, yeah, no, that wasn't even close to melting. And this is a tiny piece, 22 gauge, like less than a square inch. And the whole thing was bathed in fire. So that's a no. Also discolored the tips of my pliers here. Good thing these are ultra cheap Harbor Freight ones and I really don't care. Plus I got a bunch more of these needle nose over there, but like, you know, better ones. Copper next. So I wanted to have brass too, but brass melts at a lower temperature than copper. So if it melts copper, it'll melt brass. Let's see how it goes, I suppose. Something's happening. Something's happening. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it just dripped. Okay, that's off. Alright, so that's enough of that. Well, I think that puts us in the pretty much category. It melted. It dripped down in the pan. That is definitely blobby. It definitely blobbed up. And also, I don't know if you noticed, but I pinched it. I wasn't trying to pinch it, but it got really soft as it was getting really hot and started to flow. So despite being big, it worked. It did melt, barely. I think if this were in like a shielded crucible, it would, shielded foundry or whatever it's called, it would definitely melt with this gas. Uh-oh. I think it's stuck. It's stuck to my pliers. There we go. Cool, look at that. That's the thing that dripped off and then cooled in the pan. Focus! Yeah, see that? That's a little bit of melting action. Just a little. Alright, here we have aluminum. Aluminum, as they said on Parks and Recreation that one time. I have high hopes for this because if the copper can barely melt in open air, aluminum should just flow like water. But let's find out. Oh, yep. Yep, look at that. It's not dripping. Yep, well, it didn't flow off in a cool drippy way like the copper did. That was really quick. It just kind of crinkled up and flowed right off. Yeah, pretty neat. Now more aluminum stuck. There we go. And I didn't even melt my workbench. Awesome. So there you go. Mapp Pro Gas in open air, being held by pliers. I'm sure the pliers transmitted some of the heat away from what was being held. It cannot melt steel. It can melt copper, sorta, and it can make aluminum just fall apart immediately. So it does get pretty hot. It's probably pretty safe for brazing and soldering copper pipe, which I think is what they market it for. Because if it can barely melt that piece of copper with me just blasting the crap out of it, it's probably not going to melt a huge pipe connected to a huge pipe. And you don't want to melt those anyway. You want to get them sort of just hot enough so the solder can flow in. So I'm guessing if it can do that to copper, it can melt brass. So I'm safe for casting with the exception of steel. Didn't really want to cast with steel anyway. Well, I hope you enjoyed. If you liked, please leave a like or a comment or anything. Just let me know if you want to see me torch anything else. Nothing expensive. If you really want to see me do brass, I guess I could. I was just doing these on little bits of scrap as a test. In the future I want to do some casting, so that's kind of why I did this. Although I'm going to have like a thing with like a crucible and shielding and insulation and all that, so it works a little better. And I might not even use this. Haven't quite decided yet. That's a long way off. So, not to get ahead of myself, I will see you next time. Bye bye!